Well, we've got quite a story for you today because, on the face of it, yes, pretty big for Activision, but in the broader industry context, there's quite a lot going on too. They are in the middle of a Call of Duty hiring spree. Now, this is in the context of, in their earnings call, well, one example, them saying they wanted to triple the size of some of their teams, and that overall the publisher is planning to hire 2,000 developers over the next 2 years. We're actually seeing that happen. I mean, even in the game that we cover on our other channels, World of Warcraft, we keep on seeing WoW devs. I mean, some of them leave, but also others posting big job listing boards, even including an associate game director. So there's quite a lot of hiring going on in this organization, and specifically for Call of Duty, VGC, Video Games Chronicle, who are great, they have done a bit of an analysis, and they have found that Raven Software has grown by 50% this past year, with over 100 new hires and 41 positions still to be filled. And that with that, the studio, or with the positions being filled, they'll be triple the size they were in 2015. And it's some pretty big names. I mean, Far Cry 6, they got its game director. They got a lead animator from Respawn. They got a senior producer of Fortnite. So they have got some pretty damn heavy-hitting staff. VGC basically just went through it, worked out that this team is ballooning like hell. Now, this is, of course, for Warzone support. And this is where we've got to talk about the broader context here. So Call of Duty Cold War basically came out, and the transition of Cold War into Warzone was seemingly quite delayed, seemingly also quite a mess in terms of balance and things like that. It was not ideal for Warzone as a product, and it's something that was happening at the same time that, of course, Apex Legends was putting in serious numbers. Now, in response to this, what did we see? Well, we saw Toys for Bob, you know, the people we loved for games such as the Spyro remake. Well, they're moving on to the shooting games. They basically scrambled all of their support studios. I mean, Vicarious Visions, of course, were merged into Blizzard, but pretty much everybody else was absorbed into the Call of Duty franchise, between working in Warzone and then keeping the mainline games going. Because, of course, we also heard many rumors of Call of Duty Vanguard being in some sort of development distress. Now, a fun bit of recent breaking news is this, and the reveal is actually going to happen quite soon after we record today's video, but July 19th, Ubisoft are actually unveiling a new game. And as I take a look at it, I mean, I'm not saying it's literally Call of Duty, but, I mean, hey, the hit marker is pretty similar, isn't it? It feels like a boots on the ground, maybe a little bit futury with some of its UI elements, but it very much feels like this is in the same ballpark as Call of Duty. So Ubisoft seem to be entering the FPS market, of course, via something in the Tom Clancy universe. Now, of course, if you look at Apex Legends, it's been doing extremely well, and it even had a little arena mode, which then would make you think, well, if EA wanted, if they wanted something in their repertoire that did what Medal of Honor Warfighters was supposed to do, of course it failed and that team went, but maybe they could spin that out of Apex Legends in a way where it's not tied to the gameplay of specifically Titanfall with the Titan element. So basically, it seems like between the big publishers, there's a lot of competition in the shooting space. We know that Activision-Blizzard as an organization is hiring up massively, and we're seeing that now happen with Raven. So, that's what's going on. Pretty big business.
Yeah, I'm honestly, it's taken me a little bit to figure out exactly how there's possibly room for so much shooter. But you can kind of get it if you consider all the different flavors of shooter. If this is a multi-billion-dollar market just for, military shooters and military-esque shooters, then you can easily see how, if you can split off even a fraction of Call of Duty's user base into the Battle Royale and keep them there, then you've got all these different things competing really, really strongly for I guess a couple of different flavors. So you'll want to, as a developer, you'll want to get each flavor sorted out. And now I think Warzone was such a massive success so quickly, but I think they seem to have scrambled the beginning of that, at least a little bit, and maybe didn't super plan for the future. I think they kind of just went, we need Battle Royale, got Battle Royale, and I mean, they did a great job with it, of course, as far as I'm aware. They did a fantastic job with it, but they've definitely seen like the longevity issues of having that tied with the yearly Call of Duty cycle.
Yeah, like as somebody with a fairly passing interest, like I'll often play the multiplayer of the yearly Call of Duty because shooting is fun in video games. But it's even quite clear, like thematically, that merging Cold War with that would be quite a struggle, considering, you know, very contemporary weaponry and stuff from a 2019 game, and then blasting the 80s into that. And then I think, well, if Call of Duty Vanguard is going to be a World War II game, surely that's going to be a way harder transition to do for, you know, for the Warzone product. And if that's going to be a harder transition, how are they going to manage it? Because it seems like things have been rather underwhelming, at least aspects of the Warzone front. And that's not even to mention the issue that all of the big free-to-play battle royales are having these days, which is cheats. Because I hear that, like, both Apex and this are fairly infested by, you know, hacks and the usual stuff we all dealt with back in the day when we were playing COD 2. I think it's just that now that it's a free-to-play game and, you know, the market's got so big, there's just quite a lot of a market for cheats and stuff, which seems to be genuinely ruining a lot of players' experience.
Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a lot of that, and then especially, like, Titanfall servers going down, Apex servers going down as well. You know, Respawn scramble to get the Apex stuff back on its feet, but they can't do the same for Titanfall because they're starved for resources, because they literally have to beat these people that are, you know, like the black hat kind of hackers and stuff like that, are just running rings around them. And then cheats is a very interesting one, because I don't know if you paid any attention to it, but the recent story, or maybe a week or two ago, of the computer vision driven cheat for auto aim.
Oh.
Yeah, there was I can't remember exactly what tech it was, but it was AI driven computer vision stuff. That was I can't remember how it was framed, but it was basically a one size fits all auto aim, where it would be trained using, you know, neural net AI to literally, you know, actually recognize elements on screen of a video game instead of doing it programmatically. But, you know, all it needs is a screen and it'll auto aim for you. So it's completely, you know, basically undetectable outside of this input looks a bit funny.
Right.
And that actually ceased development because Activision-Blizzard, I mean, I don't know exactly, but they asked nicely, it seems. You know, they were like, please don't make this or we will make your lives a living hell.
Yeah, I mean, if I just think about that, if you were to train that on its objective for aiming, but then you were to extensively train that in terms of how it handles movement, such that it would be able to, and, you know, if you just throw in a few noise functions or something like that and enough randomness, it's going to be able to pull off most forms of detection, which could mean it could be pretty much perfect for identifying targets and, you know, move extremely fast in a way that, like, you could probably train that off, like, pro players, stuff like that. Then it's kind of indistinguishable. So that's kind of wild.
Yeah, so I think there's a very, very real need to be careful of all of these cheaters, which, I mean, they hired, I think Raven here hired like 40 programmers and testers. So you're going to want a lot of like server people, you're going to want a lot of programming and technological like engine level stuff to deal with any of that and try to detect it. But it's also just a question of just sheer content, because that's what it kind of is. It's like when you've got, you know, at least Apex and Warzone fighting, then, you know, it's pure content race, I think. Because obviously there's going to be people who pick whichever one they like the most gameplay flavor-wise. But then you've got the massive problem of which one wins in the headlines consistently. Yeah. It's kind of the thing where they're very different flavors, but you can almost see the same thing with World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14 at the moment, where it is just these are very, very different, and there'll be like people who are diehard fans of either. But the narrative over which one's got the better statistics or better numbers or better PR is really shifting what articles are being written. So, like, the more you get Warzone new content, Warzone new content, Warzone new content, then all of this investment is worth keeping their golden goose really, really fed as hard as possible, everything they can.
If only they do that for World of Warcraft. It seems like the last thing they'll do for that game. And it's interesting on this where, I mean, maybe they are actually doing a big push for World of Warcraft. It's just we've obviously got criticism of that game's content. You know, quality and cadence in some respects. But here, like, yeah, they're planning to do the biggest map they've ever done, and in a way where it's simultaneous with the launch of the new yearly Call of Duty game, which that's just more ambitious, more prone to, you know, failure and challenge. So absolutely, they will need to have hired all of these people. So it's interesting stuff. I think it mostly just shows that there's a lot of competition in this market. I think it shows that developer talent is one of the most important things in the industry. I think it shows that there is a limited pool of talent, perhaps, because I do just think it seems like, at least for these big games, everyone's hiring as much as they can. It feels that way anyway. While you've also got all, you know, the really juiced up VC market at the minute, you know, getting a lot of very seasoned devs, you know, starting their own companies and stuff like that. So it seems like it's quite a time for the jobs market in games.
Yeah, it seems like it's completely insane with everyone just scaling up like utter crazy. I wonder if they're like getting production pipelines done really, really well, that they can just scale up like crazy and not really worry about it.
Potentially. Like, it's what you said earlier. I get that sense with Warzone. Like, they just knew what they needed to do. They knew it was the right move for them as a business. They maybe thought, hey, we don't want to do what they did with Firestorm and cock it up. And, you know, because they'd done the one in the previous Call of Duty game that was bundled in, and it being bundled in is one of the reasons why, even though it was really popular, it didn't go like super mega explosive. So I think with that thing being field tested, they just knew, right, shit, we need something big with the next one ASAP. We'll deal with the production issues later, and perhaps that's what a bunch of the Warzone players felt. So it's interesting. This is almost certainly good news for the Warzone players.
It has to be, it has to be, because I think Warzone's one of those things where it's hard for me without playing it or knowing a lot of people who play it to get a decent feel for the community, but it never feels like it's a unanimously positive thing. It always feels like there's issues here and there, you know, cheaters one day, no content the next, you know, balance issues the next. It feels like it's just got a ton of problems that they have to continually fight with. But that's going to be one of the problems when you are literally like the biggest brand in the world, because Call of Duty is basically video game Coca-Cola at this point. Yeah. And they have to go as hard as they possibly can in every which way to keep that.
Yeah, like whenever I was playing Cold War, like when it came out, like for a good few weeks, playing loads of multiplayer, certainly I was like, you're watching all the YouTubers and stuff like that. And when it came to Warzone, definitely mixed sentiment regarding like, you know, cheats, bugs, and balance, with balance being a particularly large one, where it basically seemed like their teams did not have enough time to get balance and just all of that stuff down for the weapons. It actually did feel like it was a production issue, which is hardly a surprise considering that there's some interesting backstory about the development of the campaign of Black Ops Cold War, and then also that the map did come out months after. So, interesting stuff. Good news for Warzone gamers, and I think also just proof there's a lot going on. Like, even Ubisoft's entering this part of the market, so it's going to be interesting to see how it shapes up. You know, will we see any dethronings or any big movers or shakers, or does it just turn out that the market's really bloody big and there's enough room for everyone?
I think that's what I expect. I expect us to find out in a couple of years' time, like, hang on, what do you mean? There's Warzone and Apex and whatever Ubisoft are going to be doing. What do you mean there's loads of battle royales and loads of shooters and they can all peacefully coexist? Like, what's going to happen when Battlefield drops later this year? Is it going to, like, take a massive chunk of Call of Duty players? Almost certainly not, because those are very different flavors of game. So you're just going to find all of the people who are, like, you know, wandering around the gaming market looking for a Battlefield are going to find a Battlefield.
Yeah.
So there's, like, a peaceful coexistence. But there's only one last thing I actually wouldn't mind saying, which is kind of interesting. I hope this is really good news for Toys for Bob. I mean,
yes.
It's a real shame that they have, as far as we understand, a lot of the people who were there for Toys for Bob's usual thing have moved on.
Yeah.
Considering they were kind of forcefully thrown onto Call of Duty. But hopefully this means that those resources for other Activision products are actually available and they're hiring to replace the likes of Toys for Bob, who they scrambled on last second, as opposed to just all hands on deck forever.
Yeah, I do have one final parting thing, maybe to think about. You brought up that neural engine or that AI, whatever, hacking, cheating, whatever, aimbot. Now, think about Valorant. Think about what got Valorant in the news. Yeah. An extremely invasive, hardcore anti-cheat. If we're at a stage where there is nigh undetectable via more traditional and safe, perhaps more server-side means, does that start to, like, for the Warzone or Apex player who, because even on my Twitter timeline, I see pros be like, yeah, you know, half the games in my bracket are full of bots and terrible. Or not bots, you know, whatever. Does it get to the stage where consumers are actually going to be okay for anti-cheat that is that penetrating to their computer? If it means, you know, no bullshit like that going on. I would imagine quite soon, yes, actually. Because even in my PUBG experience, when there was a lot of cheating going on, it would ruin a match. And it's that sort of thing, like, it is a bit weird, something that pervasive going into your computer, but if it means that your PUBG match or your Warzone match is good, is the average person going to do it? I would hazard probably.
Yeah, I mean, we're only a couple steps away from having to load your game in a VM. You know, Activision-Blizzard, Battle.net stops being just a client and starts becoming an operating system you have to load, like.
Oh, wow.
That's basically the next step as far as I'm concerned, like. It's interesting. Maybe they'll just detach PC players from consoles and say PC's just a no man's land for a while till we figure this out.
Yeah, sorry, console gamers. Crossplay's ruined your experience. I wonder actually how many console gamers, if it is possible, because some products do let you do it, disable crossplay. Use the input matching. I wonder how many actually do that.
Probably quite a few.
Yeah, I have no idea. But anyway, let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.